Hi, Pope Lonergan.
Hello.
Thanks for coming in.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it as well.
I appreciate you more.
Yeah, thank you.
We met the other day in the delivery room, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah,
and you were doing some particularly raw material, and I was like, oh, I like this guy.
Yeah. Someone's described it as brutal and quotidian. I thought that was quite a nice.
What's quotidian
It's
mean?
like kind of there's normal like everyday like domestic stuff of like fun in the care home, and then I'll do a bit about like dipping my hand in a wound, and so it can be quite brutal. But then there's I thought that was quite a nice.
I vibe with that though. I like raw and brutal. I'm not really. I don't really like that sort of stand up where it's like, oh, skinny jeans on a bus, who gives a fuck? I don't care.
No, that kind of cozy stuff. And there's certain people, like, I won't name them, there's a comic in particular.
Drop names.
No, there's a comic in particular who, he's someone who does that kind of just straight down the middle, route A comedy, easily, accessible. But then there's one interesting thing about him. He's boring in every other way, but the one interesting thing is his absolutely relentless pursuit of fame. But he hasn't got enough self-awareness to isolate and enhance that part of himself and acknowledge that part of himself, even though that's the thing that makes him interesting.
Do you know what I was thinking about? I was talking to someone about awareness, and I've become more trying to become a bit more aware of myself. Do you think I don't know. I think it's like one of the most important. Like, it's an important thing you've got to have.
Yeah, self-awareness, absolutely. Especially as an addict, you need to know your triggers and your kind of personal failings, and where the shame like manifests itself and stuff like that. Yeah.
Also, I'll just ricochet with the sound of my own internal monologue.
Yeah.
Until like that sort of like echo chamber of my own mind becomes actually reality, and I will like write an email based on this internal monologue like reality, and it won't be anything like it, and I will come across like a mad bitch. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, have you ever been to, like, sort of like where you start writing a big long email about this imaginary argument that you and someone else had, and they know nothing about it?
Yeah, you're like, you don't need anyone else to actually contribute to the conversation because you're having it in your head.
No.
Yeah, that's called dementia.
Is it?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
I've got to apologise because I've got sciatica at the moment. I'm on loads of drugs, so I'm a bit sort of like twitchy.
Tell me the exact grams of drugs
I sent you
or
the
milligrams of drugs.
I know you're a drug. Your thing is prescription drugs.
Yeah.
Not my drug of choice. I'm not going to lie. But so basically, I suffered for 3 weeks in pain, like seriously mad bitch pain. And then what is it? It's like naproxen. Naproxen.
That's an anti-inflammatory. It hasn't got any euphoria.
I love that. I love the way that you just dismissed that as like
anti-inflammatory. It's nothing.
And then I've got that dihydrocodeine.
That's the good stuff. I used to take 60 of them in one go at my peak. Is
that your drug of choice then?
No, that hydrocodone, oxycodone, and morphine. Just basically any prescription opiates that can get.
Do you know what I was thinking about?
Fentanyl.
That's the dodgy one from China.
Yeah,
though,
that's
isn't
the
it?
one that kills you outright. It's what you have when you have an operation. They inject you with propofol to put you under, and fentanyl to manage getting your whole like body cut in half. And sometimes I took a little bit of that off that to.
What does fentanyl come out? Is it like
pill?
a block?
It's that green pill. It can come as different things. I think they can come in liquid form, but it's like a green pill. But it was sold as fentanyl for me, but I don't think it was, because it wasn't that potent. It wasn't like it was a rip off basically. I think it was
Cunts.
something. Yeah, I know. How dare they?
Did you not get it off the dark net, or did you just?
I got it off someone who got it off the dark net. Yeah.
Dude, just go on the dark net. I've got reviews.
I'm a real Luddite when it comes to technology. It's like the same way that I said there's certain things that prevented me from becoming. Someone who had there's certain things that prevented me from dying because of, like, for instance, I never injected, even though I'd been amongst people injecting in the shooting gallery, because my pride prevented me from asking for a tutorial. Like, I couldn't go like, guys, so what are we doing with the cotton wool here? And I couldn't ask for a tutorial. I felt like I needed to feel like I was one of them, and I already knew what I was doing, but I just decided not to do it. So.
Oh my God, low status you wanted to be high status in a low status environment. Yeah. I completely relate to that. Yeah. Like, before we get on to that though, your drug of choice, I always wondered, like, when you were telling me on Messenger, like, you were doing 60 of those pills a day, I was like, what does that fucking say about you? Like, that's your drug of choice. Like, I like doing cocaine because I like the ritual around it, and I used to like smoking weed, and I used to like Prosecco, because like there's like a real sort of glamour, bougie ritual. Like, it's just a lot of popping pills out of foil. With
this is the weird thing. So recently, anything that So I found out recently that Sudafed, you can use Sudafed if you change the chemical compound, the hydroxyl group, to hydrogen, it makes crystal meth.
Excellent.
So, right. But not being a chemist or anything like that, I thought I could just crush and snort them and that it would have the same effect. But it didn't. It made me a bit buzzy and like a bit like agitated and frantic. And yeah, anything that's like an upper, like Coke, always made me frantic.
Anxious,
and
like
agitate. Yeah, I never got the euphoria or the sociability. I always just got the I feel I'm like a door wobbling on its hinges, like I'm about to come unstuck. That's what I felt with that.
That's funny because that's interesting that you have that kind of awareness, because like when I was on it, I thought I was being sociable and integrated and just part of this, part of the thing. But actually, looking back on it, I'm like, oh no, you were fucking paranoid. You do lots of drugs to overcome the paranoia. And, I go out on my own and I just walk into rooms and I just have these like 12 hours of paranoias in cities that I'd ended up in because I just got wasted with a group of people that I didn't know. So the fact that you got that awareness is like kudos to you.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, like I remember my friend Jack. He was like big into coke, and he was like, no, but in all seriousness, he was like, no, honestly, the reason I do coke is because I have so many great opinions. I'm my best self on coke. And I'm like, no, you think you're your best self. No one else does. I have so many great opinions. I'm very enlightened being on coke. No, that's what coke does, mate. It makes you. It's a gateway to that kind of sensation, but really, you're just a blithering mess.
So, what sort of social tribe? Because were you before your drug use started?
I wasn't. This is the thing. I've always felt like completely out of step with other, misaligned with other people. I have two friends that I've known since we were bowling about as babies. And we're kind of inextricably bound to each other for life, and we've been friends literally since we were babies. They're my ride
or dies.
Yeah, exactly. They're like my core group, and then I've always I've kind of always had no friends in college, but I'd have like these waifs and strays that would like come into my orbit.
You weren't part of any sort of social group? Not even,
no.
Because looking at you, I'd put you down into some like heavy metal guitar, at least a guitar-based
no
situation.
I love stuff like Aphex Twin and like Square Pusher and like the Warp Records sort of.
No vocals.
Yeah, but also I love post-punk as well. I love like Talking Heads and Flying Lizards and stuff like that. Yeah, I wasn't a tribe guy. I wasn't part of that. I was my own thing, really. Yeah.
So you didn't hang out with anyone at school?
No. Me and my friend Louis, who we were like these two slightly chubby, funny guys who got along with everyone, but we wasn't affiliated with anyone. We were funny. We were good at kind of bantering with people and. Like we'd do loads of things where we'd like end up like breaking our wrists and breaking like bleeding because we'd jump head first off stuff or like headbutt lockers, and we're just some oddball kids.
I can just imagine you going, wish we had about this.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we were on the front of the local newspaper for instigating a riot. Honestly, and 50 of us got suspended on this one day of rioting, and it came in waves because the initial kids who were like grungers, what we call it at the time, they were protesting because they tried to implement ID cards in our school or something. Where, it's just a like little thing. And me and my friend Louis co-opted the protest and started protesting for more bum sex. And then And then we were marching around like we want.
I mean, it was legal. You could just
you could have bum sex.
You could have bum sex whenever you want. You could have had bum sex with each other.
Yeah, but we I don't know, because we were 15 at the time, so we couldn't really. It was underage bum sex. Maybe that's what we were. We wanted more underage bum sex. We wanted. And then that started, and then everyone was like, "Oh, this looks like a lot of fun." Look, and then it went mad. Loads of destruction of the school property. A teacher got punched in the trachea.
Oh, shit.
It became, and then 50 of us got suspended, and we was on the front of the paper. So.
Legends, man.
Yeah.
So were you into like alcohol before then, or did you sort of sidestep, did you sort of start out on marijuana?
No, see, never been a weed guy.
So you just went straight to the pills?
No, started with alcohol. So the moment at the age of 13, me and this other guy we got invited to this girl's house. That was also the first time I saw a vagina. And she just whopped it out, like unsolicited, like we didn't even ask.
You can't just whop it out.
She just whopped it out.
Was she wearing a skirt? Did she lift up the skirt and go, wait? Or did she pull her pants down?
She pulled her pants down but like it was unsolicited. We didn't ask for that. And we were both like a bit uncomfortable with the fact that had happened. And then I remember like disassociating. And when you look at the Windows 95 screensaver, it's got the thing with all like the pipes going like that. Yeah. It's got the thing with all the pipes going like. Yeah. I remember just looking at that going like, as long as the pipes are on the screen, I'm safe. I'm safe from this vagina. I didn't know what to do with that visual information.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
you had that disturbing experience at such an early age.
And then we. So she like lived in like a really like wealthy house, and then she poured out what I thought was lemonade, and I downed it, and it was like 90% proof. That stuff that's like made from potatoes. It was that.
Was it 2020?
I don't even know. It was just maybe even like a homebrew, like moonshine or something. And I downed that, and then I remember like running round and round a trampoline for ages and even in that moment, I remember thinking like, this is nice. Going to be a problem. Yeah, this is. Yeah. I am going to chase this feeling. I like this feeling. So I would like drink intermittently as a bit of like a reckless youth, but then from the age of 16, that's when it became. I would like add insomnia. I'd sit with my dog Dave. I'd raid the alcohol contents within the house and just make a mixture of like fucking like Baileys, Advocaat, vodka, Malibu, whatever was there, the detritus of the alcohol cabinet, and just down that. And then,
what do you think you were looking for?
Transcendence. That's my main aim. Also, when I wanted to spark off like I wanted to spark off thought processes that, I don't know.
You wanted magic to happen.
Wanted magic, yeah.
Wanted mind magic to happen.
Exactly that, and that's what I remember. Someone who really helped me before I listened to Rob Delaney on a podcast before I went into rehab, and he was talking about getting sober. And he said it's learning to let go of magic, learning to let go of the idea of magic and being able to attain a kind of mystical disposition, like just letting go of that and think you don't need that. You don't actually need that. You can just allow your normal organic to process your moods organically and not aim for it.
Yeah, it's really hard though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how did you make that sort of jump into pills? Like, what introduced you to pills?
So. I've got Crohn's disease.
My sister's got that.
Yeah, and I got basically I never should have been given any opioids because they affect your stomach and stuff. Ones. Yeah, exactly.
Are they the same ones?
Yeah, and so I was put on dihydrocodeine, and just basically the GPs they were wonderful in a lot of ways, but they completely mismanaged my medication, and they would give me like one GP was giving me dihydrocodeine, another one was chucking me MST.
What's MST?
So it's like morphine in a tablet, but it's got a slow release mechanism.
That's great.
Yeah, but the slow release mechanism, so you don't get the high, so it's just like ekes out throughout the day. But all you do is crush and snort. done. You've got around the slow release mechanism. You get the whole load in one go.
So you started taking this, and then you're like, oh, I like this. And what made you smash it up and snort it?
Because I knew that's how you get around the slow release mechanism. Look, from the moment I took the drugs just for pain and got a higher fit, I knew you could get higher for it. I was like, okay, now I'm no longer taking this for pain. I'm not wasting this lovely feeling on pain. I'm going to use it for recreational purposes. And then I was getting like bottles of morphine and fucking everything else that I could get my hands on. And doctors were, for a while, just chucking it at me because they weren't...
talking to each other. What year is this? 2013, and then through to 2017. But then there was big problems with drink and party drugs. Basically, I've had like a decade or 11 years of like drug abuse, so that's good. Yeah. And so like, where are you at the moment? You're back in?
I haven't been following the program as much as I should do.
Yeah.
I have relapsed recently, and I've been weaning myself. I've been tapering off tablets, very small amount, but enough for it to be disruptive. So yeah, I'm back to zero again, unfortunately. So
that's all right. Congratulations.
Yeah. It feels. I know we're supposed to say that in recovery.
Yeah, we are supposed to say that, but I just I feel fortunate that I've like 5.5. I don't know. I might watch this in the future and be like, oh yeah, that was the start. That was the week before you went out on a massive bender. With Pope. Yeah.
We're like, let's get some bagging right now. Right now.
But I feel lucky that I've got it the first time, and I always empathise with people that keep bouncing in and out. Really.
Yeah, it's true. I had 8 months. So when I came out of rehab, I had 8 months of sobriety and was so serene and really felt like I had a hold on it. Then unfortunately, like it was more opportunistic rather than seeking it. It was like I had access to it when I shouldn't have had access to it, and obviously I took that.
That's a decision in itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the relapse before you relapse thing. It's you're in the mindset where you're, subconsciously probably seeking it. So you see.
I think we're always seeking it though.
Yeah.
I mean, I've met people that have had like 6, 10, 15 years, and for no apparent reason they just go back out.
Yeah, and it just even like sublimated addiction. Like where I do material about like getting addicted to books about the Hawaiian judicial system. I was like, but there are things that I can I got addicted to masturbating on tanning beds for a while. That was like a weird. I kept getting like I was so deeply tanned and dry. I just get wanking on tanning beds.
That's such a weird one.
I know.
I'm if you're talking about like early recovery, I had a thing with Ubers. I spent $6,000 on Ubers in my first year of recovery. I don't earn enough to spend $6,000 on Ubers.
Yeah.
But I'd get up and I'd be like, meeting starts in 5 minutes. I'll just get an Uber. It's the price of a glass of wine.
Yeah.
And then obviously that mounted up. But wanking on tanning beds, that's the best. I mean, I've wanked on a tanning bed. It's quite nice.
It is lovely. Yeah. So you're in like a little like warm like capsule. You're free. You feel like completely at ease in your own flesh, and you just wank. You clean up. You have to have manners. There's a certain amount of decorum to tanning booths, but yeah, that was.
Hang on. Whoa. Let's unpack that. Yeah. So, why were you in the tanning bed? Did you kind of go, oh, I'd quite like to have a wank in a tanning bed, or were you in a tanning bed? Like maybe trying to get brown for a holiday.
Yeah. I caught the sun. I tanned well. I remember feeling like I just had like lost a lot of weight. I was well shaven. Yeah, I was.
Catch some puss.
Yeah. I was in that. I felt good about myself for the first time in like ever probably.
So I know what'll help. Try and get skin cancer.
Yeah. Just a little tiny, a tinge of skin cancer. Yeah. Get the sympathy photo as well. That adds to it.
I can understand. That's a warm sort of like kind of like womb-like experience, and you're relaxed.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had a wank. I'm pretty sure most people watching, the 3 people that are watching, have had a wank on a tanning bed.
Yeah.
No shame.
Yeah. I enjoyed it while it lasted. I had a good run of wanking and tanning beds.
Hang on, on average, how many tanning beds were you going to?
So I would do 3 a week, which is too many, I know. And each time it was like Pavlov's dogs. The moment I smelt the after sun and saw that I would just wank, I'd just get that horniness.
Would you go to the same tanning salon, or would you mix them up so they didn't know that you were over tanning?
No, I went to the same one. I usually had my preference for what tanning bed I liked as well. I don't know why.
What was the definitions of your favourite tanning bed?
What did it? I don't know. I think it's just the atmosphere of the room. It just felt like we had a bond. Like me and the tanning bed had gone through some stuff together by that point. So it was like, we were eternally tethered to each other by that.
What made you stop your wanking tanning bed thing?
The need. The drive to the craven need to feel something probably diverted to something else. Running beside motorways, that was the next one. Walking, like obsessive manic walking. Trying to think of other weird ones I've had.
I've had some weird ones. I don't know if I want to share them yet.
No, go on, come on.
Oh,
Let's unpack this. Yeah, go on.
No, I can't. I talk about it in my show though. Oh fuck! I don't know. Oh fuck it! I used to. Oh no, I can't. I'm too embarrassed.
No, go on. Just do it. We're sharing.
It's a wanking one.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I can't. I used to wank with strangers on the internet.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah. So that's what I used to do.
Nice to see you again. What was the platform like? How did you do it?
So basically, I was getting to a point where sort of hookup sex wasn't working for me, and it's a lot of effort, because if you want to hook up with someone, they take their time. I want something now. So it's a very controlled sexual connection, and it's basic and it's intimate, because dirty talking is very basic. There's no sort of complexity.
It's an easy transaction.
Completely. And it's very positive. It's like, oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. It's a very nice thing.
Yeah.
And then if I can just, it's like a webcam thing, and you swipe right if you don't like them, and then once you've come, you just switch off. It's so.
And you both know what you're getting into as well.
And also there's fantasy, and I'm a fantasist. I'm an obsessive fantasist.
Yeah.
So I don't need to see their face.
Yeah.
They don't see my face. I don't have any sort of like. And I just want to feel that intense, sexual, grimy, seedy connection with someone.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. I'm a fan. Ever since I was young, I think they call it like first-rate, like fabulism. That's another word I love. A fabulist is someone who but fabulist is actually like it's a pathology rather than just someone who lives in their head a bit too much. It's like someone who's actually, it's almost like a paranoiac. Like you get some of these incel guys who go on shooting sprees, and they've constructed this whole life for themselves.
Yeah, I do that.
I do it as well. I could have been if there was certain parts, if circumstance dictated that my life went in a different direction, I could have been a mass shooting guy, I reckon.
I mean, you've got the aesthetic.
Got the look. Yeah. I know. I have.
The hat and the beard.
Yeah. I agree. I completely agree.
I mean that with love.
Yeah, I know you do. I'm trying to think if I had any weird like sexual peccadillos.
I used to do that. I can't remember what else I used to do. I used to try and be a gay, not be a gay man, but act like a gay man. So I'd get on these hookup apps and try and just have constant hookup sex, and it was just, it just made me feel like shit. I was like, I can't do this as a straight woman. It doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
But I think it's the complexity of like human relationships and adult human intimacy. I don't think I can do it.
Yeah, I've got a weird someone I was speaking to recently. Like, my ex-girlfriend, she used to have borderline personality disorder. There's a lot of it's basically like emotional instability, and their like perception of the world is slightly skewed, and they feel that like everyone's kind of out to get them, and then there's like an overabundance of love, and then splitting, and suddenly they love someone and then they hate them deeply. It's always fluctuating between the two, never a middle ground. Disassociation during sex, so she kind of would come out of herself and wouldn't like almost observing herself in the act of sex, so couldn't ever be present in that moment. I think I've got a little bit of that sometimes. I think I've got a bit of that with sex. Like I
think sex and romantic intimacy is like the drug we're allowed to do.
Yeah.
And it's like the last one to go.
Yeah.
That and food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because we're allowed to eat and fuck.
Yeah, because it's there's no social I mean, certain types of sex and stuff, but it's a basic need. It's a basic requirement. We need to eat. We need to have sex, and it's very hard to manage that. I think. Yeah.
I think it's only. I mean, I'm 5 and a bit years, and I only think in the last year I've started to be a bit more healthy around it. The whole sex and love thing. I mean, I've got to a point where I think I'm lovable now. You're
very lovable.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm fuckable, but lovable is like the thing that I struggle with. But and that wasn't always. That's a new thing. I think I'm lovable. But I don't know how to move past that and have like an adult relationship. That stresses me out. But I think don't worry about it. Just try and. I don't know. I'm a people pleaser. I want to be validated.
Yeah, I kind of. This is the. So like I had codependence with my first girlfriend, and was in this kind of death cycle we were both like waiting for each other to die. Like, because all the time I would like hope for a death. So I was like, that'd be really convenient for me. That'd really sort me out. Like, I'm praying for that.
Because you didn't want to have to split up with her.
I didn't want to have to. I couldn't do the thing of withdrawing from the relationship because, I won't go into her background, but there was, I maybe got a bit of a white knight thing as well. Like I didn't want to, I thought by taking myself out of the equation that suddenly she would like die like a collapsing star or something.
That's
which is ridiculous.
Part of you wants that.
Yeah, you do. You want to be a central figure in somebody's life. You want to be not a dependent, or is it dependee? You want to be someone that people depend upon. Yeah. And that's very egocentric, but
I think that's quite common in codependent relationships, because I think you've got one person is codependent on the other person, but the other person is also playing a part in that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what happens? What I've seen is like if a lot of my mates that come into recovery and they get sober, they split up with the other person because they're moving out of being codependent. The other person's like, I need someone to be dependent on me.
Yeah. It's and also like my therapist, they said that. Sometimes you stay within them situations that are stressful and traumatic because it gives you a lovely excuse to use drugs and to like check out. Because then, like, I do a bit about saying, like, talk about this guy who I went round and he had a thing saying I miss mum. And I said, like, why are you wallowing, mate? I would love to have a dead mum. It's such a great excuse to carry on doing drugs. Like, you don't know you've been born, mate. You don't know how lucky you've got
shut up. But you don't need an excuse to do drugs if you're
I know,
I'm happy.
Yeah,
drugs. I'm sad.
I do drugs. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I have that now. Like, I feel constant sense of like restlessness, and that there's an alarm bell in my stomach going off all the time, and it's a lot more muted now, but I never feel at ease, and I feel like I need to fill my day with activity or creative stimuli or conversation or this, that, the other. Like my mum and dad said, like, I can be quite manic. I'll come down and just start, like, come downstairs and like just start banging on about something, and it's like I've already had an hour worth of conversation with myself, and then like suddenly sometimes
I forget that people can't hear what I'm thinking.
It's
very annoying. They're like, what? I'm like,
how dare you not follow my train of thought? Like, I'm the central figure in this story. I'm the focus. This is my film, right?
You guys all bit part actors. And not very good ones at that.
Yeah. If you play your role, boy. Okay.
I know. I can't remember if you mentioned it earlier today, but you're a Quaker.
Yeah.
Because spirituality is part of one of the fundamental things that I've struggled with, but has been most useful.
Yeah.
And my understanding of God and spirituality is that I'm not God, and that's enough for me because I'm a fucking control freak, and sometimes I just go, do you know what? I'm just going to let the fucking mechanisms of the universe deal with that.
Yeah.
And I'll do my best, and that's as much as I've gotten up to. I'm not very good at it.
Yeah.
How's being a Quaker figured into any part of your recovery or kind of journey?
Well, it's kind of so the idea of like that, like Quakerism and like.
I don't know nothing about Quaker.
Okay,
I should have Wikipedia'd it.
Yeah, no. So there's the idea of like a non-interventionist God, that God was like the catalyst and he allowed the kind of world to unfurl without any supervision. So he kind of made it and went, there you go, be done with that, off we pop. But then also they believe that that there's an innate godliness within us all. So when we feel a sense of connection or love or compassion with people, that's that's God.
Yeah.
So God isn't like a man on a cloud. It's just when we feel when we're in union with other people, that's God, and that's, as we know, like a staple of AA and recovery based, 12-step based recovery.
Other recovery programs are available.
Yeah. And also I like the thing about, because I've got a tendency to bang on a lot, and especially as a comic, you just it's talk. Within Quaker meetings, you just shut the fuck up.
What's the deal with the Quaker meetings? You got to sit there, be silent, and then when God speaks, you got to say something out loud.
If you get a thought in your head and you think that's God, you can like stand up and share it.
And what have your nuggets been?
Well, I didn't. The bit of material was that I was sitting in a meeting. I'm there for about 10 minutes, and then I stand up and go, lately I've been watching breastfeeding porn. Take it or leave it, mate. Take it or leave it. And then I'll say, like, I don't. I didn't think I was going to like breastfeeding porn, so I'm actually lactose intolerant. But that's the kind of stuff. You can, if you feel compelled to say that, and you can if you want. It's kind of that's pretty much it. You feel you can stand up and say whatever you want. A lot of the time, people say like, "Oh, I'm glad to be here today. I've been struggling a bit." And yeah. Bollocks. But yeah. I try.
Be grateful. Take a bit of time. Blah blah blah.
I try and throw in like a curveball and get over. Like I'll sometimes stand up and go like, "I'm sick of this. Like I'm sick of this today. Like I'm not feeling the Quaker meeting. I'm sick of it."
How many Quaker meetings do you go a week?
I used to go to one every Sunday, so that's what you're like supposed to do. But now, because of my schedule, I mainly just do one a month, which is the Tuesday meet. There's like an early Tuesday meeting that I go to. But I'll try and pick up other Quaker meetings wherever I can. A lot of the places where I do AA or NA are Quaker houses, so there's like a bit of overlap there. Yeah.
Just wear a uniform?
No, there's none of that. The Quaker aesthetic, that's something that's something of the past. But
do you practice any of that stuff? Is it helped you in any way sort of relieve the madness that happens in your head? Yeah, it's
because I also believe in like streamlining your existence. So simple living is a big guiding ethos of Quakers.
As a comedian, that's a necessity, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And so like it just the stuff that we kind of accumulate within our lives, just learning to let go of that and minimize, like minimalist, like minimize the content of your life. That's a kind of guiding principle. That's really helpful. Helps me to kind of scale back on stuff. So like the only thing I buy now that I buy in abundance is books. I buy a lot of them, but everything else is very very simple. I try to keep it as simple as possible.
And so, like, the first, how many times have you been to rehab? Just once?
Just once, yeah, I did.
I'm always jealous of people that went to rehab.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. It's weird because my nan...
Because people are like, oh my God, you are really good at this. You need to go, we're worried about you.
Yeah.
Nobody was that worried about me.
you're like a gold star addict. Yeah. You're like a big boy addict. Yeah.
I went to rehab.
Yeah.
No, I just went to a meeting.
Yeah, but no, I was lucky enough to go. I was so tweaky and antsy and intense. I was like, I need to go now. Like, I need to go now. I applied for 2. One was like, we can get you in 7 days. One was like, we hopefully get you in a month. I was like, I need to get there.
What sort of state were you before? Did you self-refer yourself, or did someone suggest?
No, I self-referred myself. I'd like to. So the exact moment where I broke down was I was on the toilet. I was looking at, because the way I used to procure my drugs was either I would nick them, I'd steal them from
who?
From the care home.
Hang on, I've just got to change my seat because my bum hurts. Because I've got sciatica. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Yeah.
Go on then. So did you steal the drugs from the old people?
I never deprived them of the drugs they require for like pain management. But I did find a loophole, which is when they die, that shit's up for grabs, right? So just a light pillaging of the dead.
So just to clarify, you were working in a care home, and that's what your day job is still to this day?
I've got to a tipping point now where my primary source of income, luckily, is comedy, but I still have to do, like all the creative. Yeah, we have to have other work as well, just to so we have a stable base of income. So yeah, I still work. I still love it. I really do love the job. And it is like a passion of mine, working with the elderly and doing stuff with them. But also, bloody great for drugs. Like there's a lot of them knocking about. You'd get to points where you'd boil in morphine pads to have a morphine shake. You'd get bottles of oxycodone, hydrocodone, downloaded that shit. So I was pillaging dead. I was stealing from that, but then also,
hang on, how'd you steal from a dead person drugs?
Well, exactly, it's not stealing. They were in the cupboard. There was very slack regulation, and I had basically access to this sweet shop, and then the other way I was doing it was, and this is still a thing that occurs to this day, is that you can go online, you can fill out a questionnaire, which you obviously lie through your teeth and saying what's wrong with you, to an online GP, and they give you the hydrocodone. So they'll give you 200 to hydrocodone or something. They'd say that's over a 30-day period. You can't actually order anymore over 30 days. They haven't done any check or assessment, or haven't consulted with your actual GP or any of this nonsense. And then obviously you just use loads of them different sites to get a massive hoard of the hydrocodone. And that's something that they're clamping down on now. They're regulating it, so obviously realise. But the problem was, these websites, they would always go, "Oh, we will what's the word? We will we will make sure this is anonymous. Like, we'll keep it hush hush." And why would you need to promise that if you didn't know what you're serving, which is an addict? And things like the Royal Mail and stuff become unwitting drug mules, deliver that shit to your house. And then you've got a steady supply of that as well. So, And my moment when I just bottomed out was when it's not like a really big dramatic story or anything.
I don't think they are. I didn't have a big rock bottom.
Yeah, what was yours?
I think I just had a 3. I think it's really underwhelming. Do you want to know it?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Mine is as well. So,
all right, let's see who's the most underwhelming rock bottom. Yeah. So I tried to go on a diet because so I got an online trainer, and I was like, do you know what? If I can change my body, then I will be perfect, and everything will be right around me. Yeah. So I went on this mad crash diet, and they were like, you can't drink on this diet, and I was like, oh, you don't understand these drinks. But anyway, I lowered my alcohol, and then one night I just snapped. I don't know if you've ever tried to do controlled drinking. I just snapped and went on this mad binge for 3 days, fucking what? And I knew the game was up, and I put like a Facebook status, and someone just sent me a DM. Yeah, and took me to my first meeting. It was so underwhelming. But on the route, I'd gotten pregnant by my drug dealer, or who knows. I'd woken up in A&E. I'd woken up mid-sex, different countries. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just dumb shit. But none of that was enough. Yeah. And it was just something really innocuous. See,
mine was my drug abuse was really solitary and almost hermetic. It was very.
What's hermetic mean?
Like a hermit. There wasn't. There wasn't a huge amount of hedonism. There was moments where I'd smoke crack with a couple of guys, but there was no. I wasn't a big partier. If I went to parties, it was just to kind of get a stash of drugs, and I would be looking forward to getting that shit over and done with, so I could just do the drugs on my own at home. Even with stuff like ecstasy, like I remember doing ecstasy just with my housemate and I used tweezers as urethral forceps just to, when you can't piss on ecstasy. I remember opening up my Jap side with tweezers just to try and extract a droplet of piss from my knob, and being really uncomfortable and agitated, and then watching Planet Earth. And we just sat there all night, like buzzing off our tits going...
That sounds very anxiety producing. That sounds so anxious.
I'm trying to think of other...
That sounds like torture, mate.
And then I remember moments of because I would always have I would have 4 grams of coke or whatever. I wasn't a big coke guy, but I'd have 4 grams of coke to myself, and then I'd have a gram to share. So that's...
Oh, you'd have the secret stash?
Yeah.
You would.
4 grams is mine, that's for me, and then the gram to share is look, I'm a sociable guy, I'm here for the fun and for the party. But then I remember going into the toilet and putting a black bin bag on my over my body to muffle the sound of me snorting, so I didn't want to have to share with anyone else. So I'd sit there snorting under a bin bag and just going, this is the life. You're really living up your 20s, my boy. This is the life. We made it.
Do you know what? I so relate, because you are so this is my drugs. My drugs.
This is mine. I don't want to share. And that was what I was like all the time. And I remember we would do so well. I remember us we'd just pour all our powder and stuff and crush pills and that into a bowl and just snort out of it. It's like a pick a mix. And we didn't know what we were getting. And that was times when we'd go on like a 9-10 day bender. It's just non-stop and came in wave, and then you crash and have 30-minute cat nap, and then you get up again and it's so... I just don't crave those again. I remember playing cricket in our little garden, which was just 4 broken slabs, and I thought, we've been playing cricket for a couple of hours, and it was 2.5 days of playing the same game of cricket. But it wasn't even proper cricket. It was just batting a ball against the wall. And then my mate's dad died, and he all right, sorry, I've got ahead of myself. I had a mate called Andy. Andy was like an idiot savant. He could speak 8 languages fluently, but in every other way he was
a moron.
Yeah, moron, an idiot. Yeah. Kind of looked like a skinned Winnie the Pooh. That's how he looked. He had the features of the Winnie the Pooh, but like a face like a constellation of burst capillaries, red and ruddy and raw, and he looked like little beady eyes. Used to always talk like this and go, "Hey, have you got any sisters? What's your favourite colour? Do you like your mum?" That's how he spoke. Didn't even wait.
Do you like your mum?
Yeah, and used to buy used to boil up pasta, shove it in a carrier bag, and go to the pub with just loose cooked pasta in a bag that he'd scoop up with his little damaged paw hand. That was just he'd just shovel it up and just eat pasta in the pub, and that's what he was like. And he was a sweetheart. He was a lovely boy.
That's a really nice guy.
He was. He was very but his dad. He's really sad. His dad died. From the symptoms that he was exhibiting, and Andy was telling me about, I kind of knew it was preordained that his dad was going to die before Andy did. So Andy was a child, really, and he didn't really understand that's what was happening. His dad finally passed away, and he couldn't bear to be on his own, so he slept with me for 4 months. We'd share a bed together because he couldn't bear to be on his own. And one night he was tossing and turning, it got too much, and so I went, "Andy, I love you, maybe you're gonna have to sleep on the floor for this one tonight." And we would just get fucked up. He was drink, his wasn't drug, but I'd do loads and loads of methadone and drink massive bottles of like Frosty Jacks or Special Brew and stuff like that. I was really fucked, and as one night, this bit is funny. He was weeping on the floor, grieving over his dad, and in my fucking fractured, awful state, I thought, oh, he needs a good distraction. So what I did is I stood up on the bed, like pulled my foreskin back and urinated all over a grieving man as like a fun but misguided attempt to distract him from his grief. And I remember being there thinking, like, you're a good friend. You're doing the right thing here. And like he was just fucking pissing rats and piss all over him while he was crying. But I didn't know he was crying. I thought he was laughing, and I thought, this is working.
'Cause you're fucked.
Yeah. I thought, this is working. Like, you've done well here. Like, you've done this quite a maverick move, but you've done well here. This fun bit of grief counselling, innovative grief counselling that you've decided to do. So I pissed all over my grieving friend. And
was that your rock bottom?
No, my rock bottom. Oh no, that was just Thursday. That wasn't my rock bottom at all. This was just like a cycle of me and.
Hang on, weren't we just talking about rock bottoms?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we haven't just like gone into a mad one.
I've gone. My brain's gone
just
a bit
like that.
Yeah, my brain's quite carbonated, so I've kind of gone off on a digression.
No, that's fine.
My rock bottom is just boring. I was on the toilet. I was about to order some more drugs, and then I looked up. It had like a notice saying that CQC, the Care Quality Commission, was going to heavily regulate the online sale of prescription opioids. And I thought, okay, that's going to stymie my supply. I thought, for 3 months, I thought, this is hell. And this needs to end eventually, but I don't want it to end anytime soon. And then just that moment, it was like a blockade.
What, on the website?
Yeah, just on the website. It's just like a thing. And
you just thought someone's going to take my sweets away.
Yeah, and I just thought, I can't. And then I just like went to my mum, like broke down crying, and went, I'm deep into drug abuse here. And like it was like how the light switch should have gone on a long time ago, because my face looked like a fucking sinkhole. I had like a plait down to my because I just couldn't bear. I was very clean all the way through this. I was a very, very, very clean junkie.
I was not clean. I was not a clean alcoholic.
Oh, I was a clean and tidy alcoholic. Even when we would have like a night of just complete like ends of the earth drug abuse, I would still like fold up my clothes and pants and like put out my clothes for the next day, and I was still very tidy and clean. But I just kind of broke down to my mum and went, and she was like very proactive. Yeah, she was just like, right, we're going to sort this. This is fine. We're gonna ring up places. And luckily, I had inheritance from my nan, who actually squirreled away loads of money, because my granddad was a degenerate gambler. So he gambled away like three grand like a week before he died or something. And so she squirreled loads of that way. And then when she died, I used that
to get to rehab.
Yeah, and it was great. Like best thing I ever did. It was worth every penny. So.
And how long were you in rehab for?
I couldn't afford the full 28 days, so I was there for 2 weeks. But it's very.
Gave you the start.
Yeah, and there's like time is very compressed, so that 2 weeks feels very intense. And like you've been there for a year, and when you leave, it's it's like how I imagine being in the Big Brother house to be, or even in Edinburgh, like in Edinburgh Fringe, that very like bubble existence.
Yeah, that month in August feels like we've all aged.
Yeah, and everything, it feels like any kind of interaction or upset or disappointment is very heightened and feels like there's so much weight to it. That's what it was like in rehab, and you feel like you've really bonded, like blood brothers kind of. So
after rehab, did you just go to 12-step meetings and try and engage on that?
Yeah, I never got a sponsor. I was a bit slack with it. I would go to regular meetings, which I just don't now. I need to get back on that. I have a lot of there'd be comedians who are also addicts that I'd reach out to, like they were like my go-to people if I'm struggling. I followed the program for about 8 months, and that's when I had 8 months of recovery, and then I was on a family holiday, and I would go like my mum and dad, and we were traveling, and their friends, and my like they're my like surrogate auntie and uncle, people that have been in my life since I was young, and we were going all around like Canada and America, and they would, in the evenings, they would kind of do their thing, and I would go off and just like, you know, explore wherever we was. And then like in Philadelphia, I found 2 guys on a stoop and like smoked a bit of crack with them. Yeah, that kind of, I didn't plunge right back in. I smoked that. The next day I slept for hours and hours and hours. And then I was like, no, that gave me a kick up the arse. Like you need to, you can't do that again. And then yeah, just intermittent relapsing, but it's very minor. It's not been, I've not plunged right back in or like lost months and months and months. It's always been like, the most I had was like a 3-week kind of stretch where I was like really into the cycle of it again. But yeah,
I think from the sounds of it, the relapsing situation is different for everybody.
Yeah.
But you're still heading the same way unless you can put a stop to it.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Like, it's just a matter of time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a relapse is a relapse, even if it's the tiniest amount of codeine or something. For me, that's a relapse, you know.
I always think that how I do things in other areas of my life is, as someone in sobriety, sort of indicates that I probably shouldn't. Do you know what I mean? Like the way I do work or attack you know, other stuff that isn't drink or drugs or dick related.
Yeah,
it's very indicative. Like, oh yeah, you're a bit all or nothing. It's probably best that you don't. Why not? Just, you got too much to lose.
Yeah, this is what I say to people as well. Like, who don't really understand. I say, as an addict, it's a pattern of behaviour. It permeates every part of your being. So the drink and the drugs are just like a symptom of the addictive tendency. It's the way your brain is actually wired. And that's why I do make a distinction between, there are some people who have become habitual drug users, but they're not necessarily an addict. My mum became a habitual alcoholic for a while, and started, that became a real crutch for her, and it was getting worse and worse and worse, escalated, and then she had a night where she was like completely blackout, and then she knocked it in the head. Doesn't manifest itself in any other way now. She stopped drinking, doesn't drink at all anymore, but there's no other part of her that is an addict.
I don't get that. Like, I mean, I think that was one of the biggest shocks that I had when I got sober. Is like, I'd go out and people would have one drink, and I'd be like, oh, like my sister-in-law, she went out for dinner with a couple of other my sober friends after a gig, and she drank, you know, she had a glass of Prosecco, and by the end of the dinner, she'd only drunk half of it. And we were all like,
why? Yeah, what's
going on?
Yeah,
you only drunk half a glass of Prosecco.
Yeah,
totally unfathomable.
Yeah, I used to get so annoyed when like my friend would like, he would have like some MD or something, and he'd like have half of it left to go, I'll save that for another time. I was like, no,
what?
Why are you? Let's do it now. We
are going to get the most fucked we've ever
been
before.
Yeah. I want to do it all. Yeah, it seems so weird to me that people save it or. Yeah, but I'm like that with food as well. Like, why? I'm not why they like wrap up a chocolate bar and save it for later. I'm like, I'll have 7 now, and then it's done. Like, I'll have 7 until I'm sick, and then we're sorted. Yeah.
So what's well, like, I want to end this on a positive note.
Yeah, okay.
Like, where are you now? What's going on?
I know I'm in a good mindset. Like, every time. I never, the self-delusion isn't there. I never delude myself and think like, no, I've got this under control. This isn't a problem. When I know lately I've had, my mindset has gone back to the mindset of an addict, but I know I have to kind of manage it. Like I have an awareness. I have an awareness what my triggers are and what I need to do to self-bind to like, prevent my access to drugs or whatever. Yeah. So I don't, sorry, I've gone a bit brain mushy. No,
that's all right. Like, are you gonna come back to meetings? Or are you gonna or what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I need to go back
because you can't do it yourself. You can't just do it on your own.
Yeah, with the therapist, I had a therapist who was. I didn't feel like he had his shit together. Like, he was always talking about like the fit mums who used to pick up their kids at the school next door, and so he'd go like, "How are you feeling?" I'd go like, "Oh, you know, I've been struggling." He'd go like, "Yeah, cool." Anyway, I saw this really fit mum.
Oh yeah, she sounds like awful.
Yeah, and he'd go like, and then he would spend and I'm like, I've paid you 50 quid to talk about fit mums. And then he'd go the legs on that one. Did you just see the legs on that one out the window? And I was like, yeah, I need to get, I'm ill. Can you help me? Like, this is what I'm paying. I don't want to.
I was thinking of someone else's story, but I can't say it. That's why I like meetings, because it's just like free therapy, but put in the pot at the end.
It's great. I don't know why I'm reluctant to go to them. I've no idea. I always feel better after a meeting. Even you sometimes, as we know, there's some people whose shares are better than others. There's some where it can be quite tedious, and
also you can drop material in a share.
Yeah, I've done that quite a bit.
Awful. That is the worst thing.
It's such an abuse of that space, isn't it? It's it seems
very tempting.
Yeah, but I need to get back to them. I haven't been to one for a long time, so yeah, I do need to get back to them. But
I just look at it as a bit of homework.
Yeah.
If I do a few meetings a week, it's a bit of homework.
Yeah.
Like, it's like an hour. What, an hour 3 times a week? Fuck me, I'd do that trying to score coke or trying to get home or flipping, I just see it as a bit of homework. I don't always want to do it, but I feel better afterwards.
How many do you go to a week?
When I first got sober, I did one every day for 3 months.
Yeah, the 90, is it the 90? Yeah.
And that helped me, because I didn't, obviously your systems outside of sobriety are built on alcohol and drugs. And if you take all that away, then you're just on your own. So, even just being in a meeting with other people that are doing the same thing, you're being carried by other people's recovery, aren't you?
Yeah,
you're being
absolutely.
By other people's experience.
And it is always, you'll have that moment of lift, of like mental lift and clarity with every meeting, where you just feel a bit of kinship with with everyone, but with a particular share that really resonates. And it's like an exhalation. It's like, it's like you just feel a release, which I know I get from their meetings. I know I get it every single time, even if it's been a bit of a boring one. I get that every time. I don't know why I'm reluctant to.
Why do you think that is?
It's probably just if like my whole life is.
Do you think you can do it on your own?
No, I know I can't, but it's probably more just laziness. Like my whole life is comedy. Like if I'm not gigging, I'm travelling to gigs. If I'm not travelling to gigs, I'm writing. If I'm not writing, I'm then doing a shift at the care home. And we know that there's always time, but we make excuses for the fact that there isn't enough time. And rather than sitting there watching Succession, or I could spend that time, but I think I just want to fucking watch Succession, mate. Don't want to hear you banging on about your dead kid. Or whatever it is.
You are so mean.
But then when you're in them meetings and you hear them bang on about their dead kid, and then you're like, oh no, this is us. Like we're united here. This is a wonderful experience. Yeah. There's a connection and the universality of what we're going through, and we're all suffering, and you feel that in the moment. But then when you step outside of it and you just have that moment, you're at home, you're like, oh.
There's probably an element of isolation still within you.
Oh mate, I'm a massive isolationist. Yeah. I have spurts of like sociability, and I'll be really gregarious, and I'll love conversation, but it's very much like I'll blah, 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 and then I'll like cut and run. Yeah, then I'll cut and run, and I'll hide away in my little cocoon. So I've definitely got that in me. It's a massive part of me, I think.
I feel that. Well, it's like, I feel totally like that a lot of the time, and sometimes when I do feel like I have to make a conscious effort to get out there, because otherwise I will just spend all the time on my own. Yeah,
I like a lot of my.
I'll build a fort, and then all of a sudden I'll drop, and I'll be like, oh, I don't feel so good.
Yeah. I'm the same. You become your own little fiefdom. That's why I'm not a nocturnal socializer anymher. I used to be, but now my socializing is I'm a coffee and daytime person now, and that's I have to be that, I think.
Cool. So like you're doing your debut, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yeah, it is called Incontinence Pad Disposal. It's about the idea of purification through confession, and there'll be like a sacrificial burning of incontinence pads at the end, or burning, like we'll do something with it, and then it'll things about like biological degradation, Joycean themes about like ennobling the body's lower stratum, like shit, piss, vomit, that kind of stuff, dementia, drug abuse,
just fucking
all the filth, filthy, just the filthy. Like, but last night when I did a preview, one of the guys when I got feedback, I solicited feedback, and they were very lovely and it was very constructive. But one of the guys was like, "Oh, the poo stuff is just a bit like that," and I went, "Yeah, I hear you, but also like fucking grow up." But then I realised I was being really passive aggressive, and he was like, "All right, mate, like." Just chill out. And I was like, but then in my mind it didn't know. I thought, like, we poo. Like, what is people's big problem?
Do you think people find you a bit too much to handle? Because I often feel like that about myself.
Yeah,
I'm too much to handle.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I had a conversation. I've been very constipated on these drugs.
Yeah.
And I shared a really explicit poo story with a couple of my mates, and they were like, "That was too much, even from you."
I remember I went on a date, and my opening gambit was to talk about giving myself an enema with a marker pen. Like, and that was before, like, how's your day been? I was like, mate, the other day, I was so bunged up, I had to use a marker pen to allow safe passage for
I had to do something quite similar recently.
Yeah. You do. Sometimes you just have to.
I was constipated for nearly a week.
Yeah, you need what's it called? There's a
See, sharing makes me feel less shameful about myself.
Yeah, I love to share. I believe in complete transparency. My mum's. Ever since we was young, it was full disclosure. Like, go and tell everything, just get it out there. Whereas my dad was always like, please, enough, stop it. Yeah, you need to keep some things back. But no, I believe just get it out there, even if it's really quite ugly parts of yourself or your thought process. Just get it out there. That's the healthiest way to be. I truly believe that.
I think that's a really good approach, especially for you. For your debut, when I did my debut, I talked about stuff I was very, very scared, like domestic violence, addiction, all the gritty stuff. And instead of like being, I thought the audience were going to hate me for it, and I thought they would be like, "Oh, you're disgusting," or "You're shameful." But actually, the more honest you are, the more people connect with it, man.
Well, Dave Chappelle said, I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, you don't always have to be funny out there. You don't always have to be funny. You need to always be interesting and authentic. And then he said, and then you will linger, like you will leave an indelible mark.
Shut up, because I was listening to Trevor Noah this morning talk about that clip on Howard Stern.
Yeah.
He's talking about the fact that Chappelle gave him some advice about being interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's such a always share a real part of yourself, and people they'll
connect with it.
They'll be with you then. They'll be with you. Even if it's not for them, you'll linger, you'll haunt them. So.
And on that note, I just want to say thanks for connecting and lingering with us today.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you for having me. It's been. I'm worried I've blathered on and gone a bit like that. But thank you.
I loved it. Stealing drugs from the dead. I'm all about it. Yeah, Pope Lonergan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.